All right, thank you for staying with us. This morning, the conversation, as I hinted in my introductions earlier, is about the young people. Not only about the young people, the anti-corruption fight, anti-corruption drive in Nigeria. 2 days ago, 9th of December was the annual, and it's a global thing, by the way, anti-corruption day. They set aside, for advocacy, for awareness, for conversations, around the world about the need to fight corruption. And as Nigerians, we are part of that as well. So apart from the global stage, we have our own issues and challenges there. And so the theme is encapsulated, with the drive, the approach, the need to unite with young people, so, the energy, the belief that young people are, the enthusiasm, the energy to say, this is our country, this is our future, we must do away with corruption in whatever form that it is, either financial corruption or institutional corruption, just like it was read earlier in one of the pages, on the front page of one of the dailies we took today, that the World Bank are saying institutional corruption is still endemic in Nigeria. So we look into all of these, and in as much is about the drive of the youth. In fact, the statement is uniting with the youth. So we have young people here, and almost all of us, although at different levels, fall into that category, and emphasis on the word at different levels and different cadres as well. So we have two gentlemen joining us, one virtually and the other one physically here. As they say, charity starts at home. We have Ladeji, who has been on the sidelines for a while due to whatever reasons. Is back on the starting team today. Ladeji Alabi, the public affairs analyst. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Femi, and to Uzoms. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here again.
All right.
The last time I was here, it was, with someone else.
Yeah.
I can see you have another beautiful partner here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for coming. And of course, we have Jacob Sule virtually. He joins us. He's a lawyer. He's a public affairs analyst, among many other things that he does. Jacob, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Thank you, Femi. Good morning to everyone.
All right, thank you. Shall we start the conversation? And I'll be starting with Ladeji here. And we're talking about corruption, anti-corruption drive. These years, topic, it's wound around the need for everyone, every age, every gender, every stakeholder to unite with the youth. And I was wondering why that topic, why the need to make the youth the focal points of driving that change, that anti-corruption drive, not even in Nigeria, only now, but globally. So do you see it in that light? How instructive, let me ask you that way, how instructive it is for the youth to be an agent of change in anti-corruption drive globally?
Well, thank you very much, Femi. I think if we are to be sincere with ourselves, we know corruption is a cancer that is capable of destroying any society, irrespective of the color of the race, irrespective of the people there. It is something that has been in the conversation for many countries, for years now. And as a matter of fact, United Nations, through one of its agencies, has been a champion of this to see how do we curb this menace.
Yeah.
Now, to your question, Femi, it is important, even though we need to start fighting now, we can't wait for the future. But we understand that...
Maybe the future is now.
Of course, yes, but we understand that the youth, quote and unquote, are the ones that we see as the people that will take over terms of affair, even though in Africa, that looks like a future impossible tense, if there's anything like that, because it's the same set of people that has been in power for years that rotate themselves, but that's not the conversation now.
Yeah.
The conversation is for the youth, to come to the front to fight this, this pandemic, because it is not only happening in Africa; it's happening all over the world. I feel it's a very important topic. For us to look into. It is something that all well-meaning people in the world should come together and see how we can curtail this, like I've earlier said. Because if you look at the trajectory of events, you see that the corruption in the system of many African countries and other nations in the world gradually is becoming a political culture. It's gradually becoming a culture for the people because it is something they are not learning in the four corners of the school. They learn through their activities, through their relationship with the with the elderly ones out there. So it is something that we must really be ready to fight.
Yeah, and let me just give a context to this. A statement from the United Nations office, actually, talking about International Anti-Corruption Day, that held 2 days ago, said, "United with youth against corruption." You can see that on our screen. Shaping tomorrow's integrity. And he says, young people have dreams and aspirations, but corruption erodes the fabric of society, stifles progress, and deprives them of educational opportunities, job prospects, engagement in public life, success in sports, and access to healthcare and other essential services. Additionally, it contributes to environmental degradation and climate destruction. Our world confronts numerous challenges, tragedies, inequalities, and injustices, many of which are tied to corruption. So it's very important to note at this point that with 1.9 billion young people in the world, fighting corruption is vital for the future of nearly a quarter of the global population. 1.9 billion young people in the world. These are according to the United Nations statement. While young people are significantly affected by corruption, they also have the potential to become powerful agents of change in the fight for a future rooted in integrity. Jacob, I'm coming to you now. Same question, why do you think it's instructive for us and for the proponents of this theme, even the United Nations, to say we must unite with the youth in this fight against corruption? Do you see it as just a normal conventional theme, or they are very intentional in picking this theme, which has to do with the young people's drive?
Thank you so much, Femi, and good morning once again to everyone listening. First, let me commend your station for actually having this conversation to commemorate the 2024 International Day of Anti-Corruption. I think, to be fair, the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime and every other UN agencies have been very consistent when it comes to issues of anti-corruption for more than several decades. I recall a few years ago, before I transitioned abroad, I was invited as one of the speakers at the presidential villa to speak on the launch of the National Bureau of Statistics survey on anti-corruption. The reality of the matter is corruption impacts everyone: Black, white, Hispanic, American, Nigerian, Christian, pagan, tall or short. And unfortunately, the the class of people at the core of this exchange are young people like me, like yourself, because when all of this corruption plays out, we are being shortchanged by the basic things that we need. It affects our access to education, as you have said. It even affects our access to a good and competent life. So to answer your question directly, this is not just a regular chorus or a regular show of solidarity. This is actually a very important topic in which organizations have been talking about. And I think we have a duty on our hands as a country, that is Nigeria as an entity, to make sure that we really have this conversation and also support young people to thrive on integrity, accountability, and also understand the importance of having good human system and not just thrive on corruption. So for me, I would categorically say that this is a very important conversation that we must have, regardless of whether or not the UN has marked a day to discuss or launch advocacy on anti-corruption. This is something in which every young person, every upright man and woman, girl or boy, must be very conscious about and must ensure that they live above board and make sure that their lives and their doings are not something that embraces corruption or doing things in an illegal way.
Okay, good morning, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Sure, yes, I can.
Yeah,
Okay. You talked about building on integrity, but before I get to that question where you talked about building integrity, I would like to talk about the symposium which we'll be having at Abuja, which will include rallies, campaign, debates, and everything. It's actually on the Guardian newspaper. So, but do we need to actually have to wait till whenever we are celebrating the Anti-Corruption Day for us to actually have these campaigns, these rallies, these debates? Do we need to wait till that time, or isn't it something that can be done on a regular, like throughout the year? It should always be coming up. And then also on the part of integrity, which you talked about, talking about youth being keeping up with integrity. How are they supposed to keep up with integrity when they have the issue of unemployment? Now, unemployment is very high. It's a very high rate. It's at a very high rate here in Nigeria. I'm bringing it down to us. Like, how exactly are we supposed to keep the integrity when there is a high rate of unemployment, and then the politicians or the people in power are using it as a means to actually get the youth to do their bidding?
Thanks so much. Those are three in one in questions, but I'll do my best to make sure I get to each of them before my time is up. I can tell you for a fact that anti-corruption isn't something that's supposed to be something that you do on a particular day. It shouldn't be likened to a Sunday medication called praying that you just do one stop and then wait until the next year again. But I can confirm to you that organizations like the UN Office on Drug and Crime, based in Abuja, have been working round the clock, round the year on issues of anti-corruption, engaging young people, engaging schools. I know for a fact that there's also some organizations in Nigeria like Step Up Nigeria and also other non-profit like Code, Budget, and IT, working tirelessly to engage young people on civil tools and advocacy that you can use to engage government and actually question things that are not appropriate when it comes to budgetary allocation and also fighting anti-corruption. We need not wait until when the US comes and say this is a day in which we want to advocate for this. It is a concerted and continuous effort. And I say this because when you look at the way Nigeria is actually constructed, 60% of, or preferably over 60%, are made up of the youths who have been described as the bulk of the Nigerian population. How does this affect us directly? The little or the little fraction of the political elites who are probably deciding the future of these countries have been seen as those who have brought us to where we are today. And why do I say this? You see leaders where monies are earmarked for school constructions, those monies are being siphoned and then mismanaged. It boils down to the fact that it affects young people, it affects youth, because when these funds are mismanaged, you can't even get access to good school, you can't get access to quality education, you don't even get access to jobs. And then you see that these political elites are also eating deep into what's supposedly meant for the future of young people, where you see political elites getting appointments for their kids, not on merit, but based on nepotism and who you know. And we're hoping that that would actually get to a stage where things like this will not be seen or discussed with our democracy in Nigeria. A few years ago, the National Bureau of Statistics did release a survey in 2023 about the state of anti-corruption in Nigeria. I kid you not, the report said that about 721 billion naira was paid in cash when it comes to bribery and corruption within the Nigerian public service. Guess what? The Nigerian judiciary was said to have been one of the top arm of government to have received those funds. Now the question is, why should it be things like that? When decisions are made, maybe it has to do with young people. These decisions really affect the outcomes of of things in which young people need. Also, how has corruption into the future of young people? it has deliberately affected the young people in getting access to public services. You said that young people cannot even go into hospitals because they believe that when they get in there, the amenities are not even there because those who are given the responsibility, those who you and I voted into office, have deliberately, mismanaged the funds that are meant to get these things working. It has also affected the need for having quality and quality civic engagement. Now in Nigeria, you can't even have conversation on expressing your rights. Maybe the government has done something and you want to protest. Before you even go on protest, you will hear the government saying protest is being banned for XYZ reasons, just because of the parochial interest of some very few insignificant political elites who feel that they can continue to hold this country into ransom. So what I will just close up is to say that corruption has been with us for a very long time. But as young people, we should all not just wait until December 9th of every year to speak, launch advocacies, campaigns, or symposiums to speak about corruption. It's a continued process. And to be very honest with you, I can say that there are there are a significant fraction of the Nigerian populace, especially the youth, who have consistently engaged in this. And I think we just have to encourage everyone to actually understand the need to live above being corrupt, and also try to live a life full of integrity, whether someone is watching you in your private life, in any way in which you find yourself.
Right, and she asked about what is the a lot of the youth, if actually they are grossly unemployed or underemployed, and it's looking like it's a weaponized thing against them. So the political class, the ruling class, would rather use that their idle nature, to make them to do their bidding. At that point, what will you have these youth do, especially as it's happening in Nigeria?
So I think what the youth can continue to do is to continue to speak up and stand for their rights. We saw something like that play up a few years ago when we went to the polls. I think it was 2019 or 2015 election. Many young people stayed awake to defend their vote and even cast their ballots. It is unfortunate that we have a system that is rigged against the youth in Nigeria. But all I would just encourage young people is continue to invest in quality education, do as much as you can. Unfortunately, the political elites are masters in the game. They know how to lure young people and use them for snatching ballot boxes and then their own parochial interests. But we cannot overemphasize the role of education here. So I will continue to seek for continued education for young people. You can, with the outbreak of the pandemic, I think education has become something in which you can sit in the comfort of your room and learn more about how you can become competent and know more about these anti-corruption efforts. So I encourage every young person listening today to my voice today to just do not be carried away by immediate gratification. Now we have young people who want to drive the latest car without having a decent job. So I think right now young people should focus on educating themselves, understanding the fact that corruption is a menace. If we don't kill it, it's going to kill us as a nation. And I understand that it's not easy, when you find a young person who doesn't have a job and a politician is dangling an amount of money to you. It's very hard to say no, because it's more like a temptation. So just to close this, to tell young people, regardless of what is being brought to you, continue to educate yourself. Make sure that your integrity is not being questioned, and do all you can to ensure that you don't get yourself into murky waters of being corrupted. I'll tell you a short story. When I was still back in Nigeria as a law student in one of the state universities, I was privileged to be appointed as the chair of a committee to investigate financial mismanagement of the then law student association of the university in which I attended. Even as a law student, there were so many games and so many things that were said, even as chair of that committee, to an extent that I almost lost my chance of going to the law school with my colleagues at that time because of the stand in which I took when it came to investigating that financial recklessness. So I just encourage every young person out there, regardless of where you find yourself, regardless of things going on, keep your feet on the ground. Like you people say, a good name is better than riches or how many houses in which you have. So I encourage every young person, shun corruption, do not be involved in it. It might look as if, oh, Jacob is saying this because he's living abroad. No, I have walked through this path, and I can tell you that integrity pays regardless of how much you're being paid to do things that contradict your personal values. And I encourage every young person to remain above board and continue to, to live a life that is full of integrity and shun any form of corruption or whatever you may have it that may question your integrity as a human. Thank you.
Okay. All right, sir. One more question, please. You made mention of speaking up at the right time, or speaking up always, not always keeping calm or waiting till the set date to celebrate it. Okay, how about those that actually took to the streets to speak up calmly through a protest? I'll take, for instance, during the NSAS protest, when the youth took to the streets to talk, to air their minds, to say, okay, we do not want this anymore. And then they were, should I say, abused? Like they used force on them. And you look at someone who maybe went there with his brother, and somehow the person's brother is dead now. And somehow the person looks at it like, what's the use? What we're even fighting for? I've lost my family member, and there is no use continuing with it. And the person just decides, let me just hands off and do whatever, walk in the line of whatever is going on in the country. What would you say to such persons? Because if they are to bring up the dead, they'll be like, I lost my member, I lost my brother, I lost my sister, and I'm not into this anymore. I just want to live my life and be happy. I don't care about the corruption or anything. I just want to live my life. What would you say to these people, sir?
To be very honest with you, that is, I was in Nigeria during the NSAS protest, and if I recall clearly, I did participate in one of the protests in Oshogbo before I transitioned abroad. It is very unfortunate that we have such a system in Nigeria, and particularly across board, where young people are being killed because the fact that they are demanding good governance. And I recall that the essence of that NSAS protest was actually to ask government to sit on its stool and stop killing young people. And also, it was a protest against police harassment under the guise that young people are living beyond their means. I'll be very direct with you. The fight against corruption is not an overnight journey. Yes, we must have lost some souls, which I really pay condolences to families who've lost loved ones for being involved in the fight against corruption. I individually, as a person, that there are some times in which I sit back and even before I send out a tweet, I ask myself a question: will I, for the past 2 decades, we have been making commentaries, advocacies about the state of corruption in Nigeria. How long are we going to do this as young persons? And when would we actually begin to enjoy the fruits of a supposedly working system in Nigeria? And the truth is, we can't even blame everyone. All I would just advocate is we need to continue to empower the Nigerian youth, making them understand that this fight is continuous. It requires concerted effort, resilience, and collaboration. And we can't do this all by ourselves. Some, like many have given up, just like when our forefathers fought for the independence of Nigeria. Not all persons who were part of that struggle are living today to actually see the Nigeria in which they crave for. So my admonition to every young person is every person needs to continue to seek quality education. Every young person needs to continue to play their part. We won't say because we have been advocating for a free a corruption-free environment, now continue to join those who are actually being corrupt and corrupting the system. I would also strongly advocate for continued accountability in the part of we as young person. If you, I, Femi, and everyone joining or listening to this conversation can take their own path and do things with accountability and be fair, I think would have a great country
All right.
in our hands that will help us have a corruption-free and a bright future for all of us as a country. And to close, I know it's quite challenging, but I do have very strong hope and believe in the country. And I do hope that someday you and I will live in a country where our kids will understand that some persons have fought for where we are today. And I do hope that someday Nigeria becomes a country in which we are all proud of, and our actions as young people will determine the kind of country in which we will live in the coming decades. So please, for every young person, don't give up. Continue to empower yourself, seek for quality education, and stand against any form of corruption or social vices. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, sir. Okay. And to you, guest here with us, I have a question. Okay. The International Day of Anti-Corruption actually started in 2003, but Nigeria joined in 2004, which this year is making us 20 years in that fight. So do you think that in these 20 years, we've actually, what's the word now? We've actually gotten something. We've actually made headway. We've made progress in the fight of this anti-corruption.
Well, it's a difficult one, Uzoms, if I will be honest, because sometimes we take a step forward in our fight against corruption, and another time we take like 20 steps backward, which makes it more difficult for us to, make an headway, in our fight against corruption. 20 years ago that you mentioned, there are some things that wouldn't have happened, like Jacob mentioned, a statistic came out last year, and it indicted the Nigerian judiciary heavily that they took the highest bribe, in Nigeria. That should be something that everybody in the judiciary will sit up and see how they can, actually clean the mess. But what do you have today? You have the systemic corruption getting bigger and better, for itself by the day. How do you say to the fact that, a policeman catches a guy that is into internet fraud, and the best you can do is to take him to a corner, make him transfer 500,000 naira. What you have done to the guy, you've not solved any problem. What you have done is to encourage the guy that if you are making 5 million naira, because I need to bribe a police officer, I need to try as much as possible to make 10 million, to make 15 million, so that I can ride the best, the best cars in town, then I can have more money to give to policemen. Now, the problem with corruption is that it's just like they say, when you tell a lie, you need 20 more to cover it up.
Yeah.
So when when you succeed in a corruption act today, what you want to do is to add more corrupt act to it, to close, and before you say Jack Robinson, it becomes bigger and better. Just last week, EFCC came out, even though they were not serious. They were not serious in the sense that you said you got a court ruling that you should take, forfeiture of over 700, apartments, and you cannot name the person. You just said 753. Yeah. You said a duplexes. Government official.
Duplexes, yeah.
Duplex in Abuja, and you know how much a unit of duplex in Abuja will cost. But this same set of people will, bang into lawyers' house, will go to clubs where people are having fun, and you go and arrest people in the name of their internet fraud.
And put mugshot on
and put mugshot. Immediately you put mugshot. You see how Yaya Bello was optimized while he was going to the court. Somebody that is allegedly has stolen state money. And we say we are fighting corruption. We are not serious about this. If we are truly serious, how many people have we jailed? Don't forget, a particular person was jailed for corruption. And in less than a year, he got his freedom back. What you are telling other people is that go once you have the money. That is why you see Nigerians today, they don't steal, little money again, especially people in power. They steal billions. That's why it is almost very difficult for them to pronounce those money, because they steal it every now and then, and they can cost 6 billion, and all those things happens because people are not getting punished for the bad things they do.
That they do. All right. Let's take it back a bit. When we talk about corruption, averagely people would think it's only financial corruption, actually money exchanging hands. But then a quick check, on the research, we tell you it's not just about that. Now, there are different forms of corruption, and in which the youth is being encouraged to unite, and everybody should unite with the youth, because that's the message. So we go to a future that has integrity, and that is key. Not just moving into the future, but the future with integrity. Now, bribery is a form of corruption.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Easily seen everywhere. Inner light, park, what do you carry? What do you have for us? You know, all of these things. Fraud, okay, you mentioned it earlier. Embezzlement is a form of corruption. Nepotism, that is one that as people, you know, and the thing is when it favors you, you know, people call it favor.
Yeah.
Of course.
If I
We
may
go
use
to
that
church
word.
to celebrate it.
Yeah.
Now,
Tribalism.
what is nepotism? Unduly giving advantage to people of your family, close people, relatives, is a corruption. And I think many persons do not reckon with that as corruption. They just feel, oh, it's a person that's there. And actually, it's part of the considerations when people are voting. Where is he from? Is he going to do our bidding? Is every good thing going to come to our area? You know, is our time. So let's use that one. And if actually this thing doesn't follow due process, nepotism actually is corruption. We talk about cronyism. You and your people, you and your guys, you know, political corruption, grant corruption, and state capture. And what is state capture by definition? You know, it's when a company organization influences legislation or government policies through payment. And of course, we have educational corruption, sex for marks, sex for grades, all of these things. So apart from the financial corruption and all these things that we see, you know, the signs are there. Now, let's talk about the system. Ladeji, I'll pick you up on that. On the system, I'll come to Jacob as well. What can a young person do? A group of young persons who feel in their teenage years, in their 20s and their 30s, who feel this is not the kind of nation that we want. We should charter a good course forward. But there is a system, conventionally or unconventionally, that will frustrate. Okay, you want to join the queue, you are there, you know, because these are some of it as well. You're on the queue and then you are waiting for your time, and somebody, because you are in uniform, will come out of their car and then will not line up. You just go straight to the front because you are a military officer. Instead of you to be on the queue, and people will, out of respect, say, oh, gallant officer, can you please go ahead? Because you're on a state job, I know they will just, and if actually you dare talk, you know what will happen. So when the system is skewed against you, when the system is just there to frustrate, we are talking about uniting with young person. You know, Jacob talked about speaking and speaking. For many persons, we tell you we don't tire. What can a young person do? What can this group of young persons do? You know, if this system is kept in place, that future you are talking about is non-existent.
Of course, yes. It is not.
How do we navigate that path?
It's actually a pretty difficult
because people that have this nation, and I must be very clear, on chokehold, they are not ready to let go.
Of course, yes.
And you don't have that financial muscle.
Well, Jacob said something very important. He said, you know, youth needs to, first of all, you need to choose by your own self. That even if every other person will be wrong, I want to be right.
The will. Are you talking about will to do what is right?
What is right? You know, corruption starts from as little as I was driving with a friend, you know, one day, and there was this, because of construction, there was a road diversion, so people drive one way. And this guy said, no, irrespective of what happened, I will go and turn. It taught me a very good lesson. And since that day, I didn't fall victim of that. I will go to that edge to go and make my U-turn. You know what? A lot of people are doing it, doesn't make it right. Do you get? Now, however, you have posted a very difficult situation.
Yeah.
The system is corrupt. But one thing, you know, slave masters fear a lot is a slave that speaks up. He is a united slave against them. The problem we have in Nigeria today, you know, she asked Jacob about this, and you know, joblessness. And that is why you see corrupt politicians will bring out 30,000 naira to a particular youth, and you know, the moment they wear the garment of I am a social media influencer, you begin to make campaigns against a terrible system. We have one in our hands now. Something that we know, you know, a magistrate court that you know should not do something, and is doing it, and you as a youth, you are the one that is coming out to say, okay, and this person also. No, we are talking about, because the system, the corrupt system you defend today might come back to hurt you tomorrow. A friend of mine went to South Africa and he came back. He met me in church and he called my name and said, guy, this country cannot be good again. I said, no. He said, see, you people that you are fighting for it to be good, you are in the minority. He said, because if 5 of you are saying it should be good, there are 95 of us that are saying it will be bad. He gave me the scenario that played when he was leaving Lagos airport to Johannesburg in South Africa. He said the guys in Lagos immigration literally tear apart his luggages because they wanted to look for what he had inside. He nearly missed his flight. He said he got to...
And maybe as a first-time traveler.
No, he has even traveled before. No, I think it was his first time.
Because that happens to first-time traveler. They know you are naive. They know you are nervous.
You don't want to miss your flight.
Then they mess you up.
He said he got to South Africa, Joburg Airport, and he said the trolley that he paid for in Lagos was given to him for free. And he said even the officer that attended to him said, sir, the guy, he was expecting that the guy would ask him for money. He said he only told him, I like your PEF, but I can't take the one you have. If we later on meet in town, you can buy mine for me. Do you get? And he said there was a day he was driving in town and there was this sticker on the car, you make a traffic error, you get booked. I was driving in the Ibadan one day and the police officer called to me. He said, oh, let's go to the road. If you don't want to go to the road unit, you pay 15,000. I said, for what? Is it your money or government money? If I have committed an offense against the law of the state, let the law punish me. Whatever fine I am going to pay, let it go into the covers of the of the government.
The state, yeah.
What that would tell me is that next time, if I'm parting away with 10,000 naira today because I drove against traffic, what that will tell me tomorrow is that, guy, that 10,000 naira you spent yesterday, don't make that error again. But because the system is utterly corrupt, and we have a lot of youths that are not ready, what they care about is, I also want to, drive the latest car. I also want to live a good life. I just need the money to...
We are being honest there. Will you blame them?
Of course I will.
Why?
Yes, thank you.
The people who are your role models are cruising around
Femi,
at the expense of that future.
Femi, you have the choice to choose a role model.
Okay.
Nobody will force himself on you as a role model.
Okay.
You have plethora.
Most of the models are not
I'm coming.
aware.
I'm coming. You, of course, a lot of models they are not aware that
anybody is understanding.
Of course, yes. Yeah. Now, in this same Nigeria, there are people dead or alive that you can mention, and people will say, wow. A good example, Babatunde Irukera that just left FCCPC. The day that man was sacked, everybody, including myself, were complaining. You saw last week, the Honorable Minister of Aviation came out to blame FCCPC for going overboard. I told someone, I said, this will not happen under Tunde Irukera because he knows his onions. These are people you should choose as your role models. He didn't get to that place just on the way of by wishing or whatever. There are people that you can say, yes, they are not perfect humans anyway.
No.
But at least there are people that they are people of integrity. People still mention Dora Akunyili's name. Now she's dead. But people mention her name. People mention Ngozi Nkojo-Iweala's name. She left her job as a World Bank director to come and work as a Minister of Finance in Nigeria, and she did so well. Now she's the chairman of the World Trade Center.
Many persons will say these models they are talking about, they have worked their way, they are hardworking. So
they didn't get that by wishes.
They will say they are people of means. But these models and these mentoring and mentorship that I'm talking about, somebody living somewhere in Odiolo, in Oshobo, or somewhere will tell you these things doesn't pay my bills. I want my bills paid.
Now, because Femi, because
they're talking about needs.
Let me take you to
someone's needs.
Femi, let me now take you to our value
being affected
system.
by their decision.
Let me take you to our value system. You know, at a time in the Yoruba setting, if your family is said to be a corrupt family, people avoid you like a plague.
Yeah.
Oh, in fact, that's why in Yoruba culture and tradition, Samuel Johnson in his book, History of the Yorubas, where he wrote about Yoruba marriages in Yoruba land, he talked about investigation. Oh, you saw Uzoms, you want to marry her. Somebody in your family goes to investigate her. The moment you are approaching her, somebody in her family investigate your family. They discover your family, somebody in your family has stolen before. The tag is on you. And that family that they used to steal. Do you get? But nowadays,
I think most African culture.
Nowadays, you even see. I've heard of this, but I've not seen it in play. But I've heard that mothers even take their children to go and learn internet fraud. It's a drop in our value system. Now, one thing I've learned from this traditional, they will tell you that you cannot jump guns. Even the Bible let us know that you need to walk. Priority. You don't. Yoruba will say, Ojo to yangun kolon korun. It's a step after the other. If you start a job today, after NYC, you start a job today, and you want to become a Femi Adefila immediately, you know how many years he was toiling? You know how many years, you know how many sacrifices he has made? You want to become a Tony Elumelu immediately after your NYC, you've not worked anything in your life, you want to steal. That is robbery. But if
You're talking about patience and due process.
Due process, you will get there if you are not lazy. All these people did not just become what they became just by say, Otedola Olori Meji. Yes, it doesn't have to eat. But he's working, even till today, with the level of his wealth, he's still working his ass out. You have, the likes of, Dr. Deji, they are still working to make more money. Okay. But we have a system where even parents from home now, go to our religious centers now. Everybody wants miracle alert. Oh, he just does. I believe so much in miracles.
So who's to blame in all of this?
A lot of
we are
things.
talking about
now, Femi, from the family.
We are talking about how you can beat that system.
The blame starts
the corruption
from
in the system.
The blame,
so that we have a future.
I know you grew up in a society whereby when you were in secondary school, you dare not bring something that is not a property home. Yeah, you dare not. The kind of parent that breed a lot of us, you dare not. Today, what do you have? A child that is jobless is bringing in a formatic Benz, and the mother claps, oh, grace of God. You go to church to go and celebrate. You did not ask where your child is getting the money. Now, note, there are a lot of jobs that give youth money. Yeah. But there are still a lot of youth out there that all that is in their head is, how do I drive 2025, not 2024, 2025 Maybach? Because they don't want to be at the level of their friend. Family first, then schools.
Ladeji, let me do a pause
then
here.
To religious houses.
Yeah, let me do a pause. Where we have just got into now, before we go to, Jacob, that young people want the best of things. Everybody wants the good life. And someone will look, a very serious person to say, my father was a civil servant. He struggled, to raise us and all of these things. And now the man is struggling with his pension, with his, gratuities, 5 years, 6 years after. Many of them are doing I'm alive, that verification thing, and they are slumping almost every day. And the young person is saying, if it takes my father 30 years, and this is all he could get. Last week, veterans, war veterans, military officers, former and retired, were protesting because of peanuts. 32,000 naira increment, 30,000 naira increment, hazard allowance, what they were there. Some of these things that are not even enough to buy a tire of a Cadillac. All right, they were there. Many of them were on the ground. Many of them were shouting. And maybe a week later, the government came and said, oh, we have started payments. Must they go through all that? And a young person is looking. I don't want to go the route of my father. I don't want to do that. My father hustled and he was hardworking. I want to hustle and be hardworking. But if there is a way that I can beat that system that didn't favor my father, why can't I do that? Because people at the end of power, conventionally, even things that are not moral, I find his way to our laws and they are enjoying. Somebody has served 4 years or 8 years as a governor or as a deputy governor and is entitled for everything that he was entitled to while he was in power because the system is favoring it. And somebody is looking at his father to say, as a teacher, as a headmaster, as a level 13, 14 officer, your money is not still up for 300,000 naira.
Femi,
I won't go through that.
Let me break your heart and let you know that most of these guys that follow politicians, even what they are running after politicians for is not up to the pension their dad is looking out to get. I know a lot of them.
Yeah, I know.
So,
but a young person, a child,
Femi,
is saying, I can't train my own child with cooperative money.
Now, what we are
I must
saying,
do whatever it takes.
Apparently, do whatever it takes legally. That's what I'm saying.
But the system is not favoring the legal thing you want to do.
Femi, we're talking about the corrupt system.
Yeah.
If something is
because
bad,
don't forget,
Femi,
the topic is
if something is bad,
as agent of
Femi,
change.
if something is bad, what do? You look for a way to correct it. Ask me, the people that INEC used to rig elections, who are they? And they youth.
Let's be careful.
No, Femi.
Yeah, let's be careful about
See,
it.
let's stop deceiving ourselves. In fairness, let's stop deceiving. The same INEC that you see different scores on the IRF and you see the same stuff on the book. Well, well and good
And
for all
let
of
me
us.
tell you, there are bad eggs as well.
So what has happened to
eggs.
those bad eggs?
Okay.
If you see something, you saw what happened in 2023 election in River State. Literally, people were changing scores. What happened to them? Now, who are those people that were changing scores?
Yeah.
Don't you have youth amongst them?
Yeah.
If you as a youth,
Majority of them were you.
if you as a youth says, no, I won't do this, I won't be a part of this, no matter how much you want to give me. Because, why? If you encourage the corrupt system, it puts more space in the time for you to even aspire to become anything. You see how many Nigerians won elections in America, in UK. You can come out and vie. Once people hear your manifesto, they want to vote for you. We signed a law to reduce the age of people that can apply for House of Rep. Femi, your salary 5 years cannot buy you the nomination form of any of the major political. That's the reality.
Okay.
And even if you have friends that come around to buy you the form, do you have the money to? We had it. It's on record that some political gladiators bought their what they call this representative that goes to vote in Abuja for their primaries.
Yeah,
they gave them delegates. They gave each delegate as high as $20,000. Don't you have youth among those delegates? You have them. If youth want a better system, we all come together and say, no, we don't want this. See what happened in Kenya. The country was seriously indebted, and the president was busy enjoying himself. They went on to tax everything, including sanitary pad. And the youth came out to say, sir, if you cannot, leave some things to make sure that we get out of this debt, then you will not be overtaxing us. But who are the youth in Nigeria that will defend this? They are the people that will collect 30,000 naira. The highest they give you 100,000 naira.
The youth tried it as well here. They were short.
Okay.
Femi.
Uzoms had the same thing.
Femi.
If you think my voice should be heard, you went to the streets and you are losing your family members. You rather stay alive.
Femi, what was the percentage of the youth that came out? That's what I'm asking. Like again, I mentioned the other time, politicians have fear for a united people. It's still the same youth that are divided by money that will come and say, those youth out there, they are hungry. Don't you also forget that even during the NSAS movement, there are some people that went to, side corner some of the people on the street. Are they not youth?
Yeah.
So if youth are not ready to say, now, I'm standing for the truth, even if I'm standing alone, if everybody chooses to do the right thing, then we'll get better. But if we continue to do the wrong thing, then we should just stop deceiving ourselves that this country will get better. It won't get any better, it will get more worse.
Okay, let me ask you. You said something like, because something is bad, doesn't make it, because everyone is doing it, doesn't make it right. Okay, in a situation, I want to pick up some instances. Like when I was in the secondary school, we had a situation where if you were not from that particular place, you are not going to be given a position, a post as a prefect in the school. Now,
At the secondary school level.
Yeah, at the secondary school level.
You're talking about systemic
Now,
corruption.
that thing, it's already there. You know that this person is qualified, this person is good. But because you are not from that particular region, you are not given that position. It also got to the part of where you have to go for competitions, where you are actually going to make a good money from it, or good money from it, and you're not from that region. They sideline you. They pick up someone else. So imagine someone in that state, and you're like, oh, so since I started seeing some of my classmates, their parents that are giving them, getting this certificate of origin for them from that particular state.
Just to beat the system.
Exactly. Just so they can participate in these things. You also talked about the school, from the home something. I know of a person that was actually standing her ground in my university. She stood her ground on not going to sleep with the lecturer. The lecturer failed her. And she found the script, and the lecturer tore it. There was nothing for her to back it up with. It was her word against the lecturer's word. At the end, she was suspended for a whole semester. Now, imagine that kind of person and the kind of trauma or the mentality the person has already. The person will be like, what's the use? Right. Now, also, I also get to the election process during my service here. We were part of those that were carried to go and do the election to count votes. Duty. Now, you say, you're not going to join them, you're not going to cancel it, you're not going to clean it, you're not going to do this. And they beat you up. They beat you up and they still retrieve it from you and do whatever they want to do. So how do we come out of this?
Thank you, Uzoms. I will start from the last one. I was also, during my service, I was opportune to, work for INEC. I was meant to be the polling officer for 2 elections. So the presidential election, I was the polling officer of my unit. They tried what they could. If a man came, he followed me down to where I was to submit my results. And he said, he brought envelope. He said, the party said, which I said, I'm not interested.
We're not talking about the
No, I'm coming.
Okay.
From the polling unit, the problem started because, they had to, it wasn't as easy as I mentioned it. We had to, just find our way to the polling unit. Now, after the presidential election, they now approached. They said, this Yoruba boy, you are trying to prove difficult, blah, blah, blah. You see, the party, the chairman want to meet. When I met him, I told him, I said, I can't be a party to that. And I opted out. I said, I'm not doing it. It is better I'm not going to do this than I am, because who I represent, if I call myself a Christian and I go out there, I'm the one that gives people ballot paper to go and rig election, or because somebody gave me. Now, I understand the highest they will put inside the envelope will be 10,000 naira.
So for you, your religious value will not allow you.
Even from now, because I grew up in a family where you cannot get back to, my dad is dead, but there are some things I can still not do.
Sure.
Because of the name. Oh, you are so and so person's child. I can't do it. Now you mention sex for grade. It happens virtually in all our universities.
Yeah.
It happens. But you know what? A lady in 100 level, when I was about graduating from school, came to our fellowship and they complained of the same thing. And myself and some other, because then for us, going to university was just like an icing on the cake. We already spent our university days looking for admission. So the experience was there already. So I told the lady, myself and some other comrades, we told the lady, we said, go ahead. It makes any attempt to let us know. If this is why they will rusticate us, we will do, but he will also not sustain his job. Let me tell you, a lecturer was sacked in my school because of sex for grade. What the lady did was just to set up a camera for him. 33-minute video. We saw his video and he was sacked. See, most of the time, because we also have a system that doesn't allow the victims to come out and speak.
Exactly.
A lot of ladies
That's what she's
sometimes
speaking to.
now they don't. But if this lady had not spoken out, the man would have gotten down with her.
And the one that spoke up,
It depends on who you are speaking to.
That's
If
the thing.
no. If you are now, you also need to be careful. You need to be, because most of the time you don't report
smart.
a lecturer to a lecturer. First, get your most of the time when you want to fight a battle, don't just go all out. Get your facts right.
Have fact and evidence.
Get your evidence. A lecturer was sacked in my school because of text message. Because of text, and he indicted himself. He had a sexual intercourse with the students inside the office, and the car got broken, and he texted the lady, I'm sorry it was rough, but I hope you enjoyed it. That was what the lady took to the committee. Do you get? So most of the time, and to the last thing you talked about, state of origin, whatever, even in Nigeria, if you have stayed for how many years in a place, you have the right. See, it is because
Naturalization.
you can, if you have spent
By
20
our
years,
laws.
by our laws,
But it doesn't work out like that.
it works. If you have spent, I'm not.
No, she's talking
doesn't
about
work out like that
you
because-
can naturalize.
Of course.
But when the perks and the opportunities
No, of
come,
course, yes.
you
Of
can
course,
still be sidelined that.
Yeah.
of course,
You are
saw
from
it.
here,
You
you are from
you
here,
saw it
you are
play.
from here.
You saw it play out in the 2023 election. That
Alright.
a particular set of people said Baba Obasanjo Eboro who himself is not a Yoruba man,
Alright.
just to make a section of the country feel that no, it is Yoruba's turn, and that's one of the deficiencies of rotation.
All right.
When we rotate,
Yes.
it doesn't give the best option the opportunity to become.
Thank
the
you,
next leader.
Ladeji. We have to coast home right now. And, Jacob, are you with us?
Yes, please.
All right. Thank you for holding on. Now, this morning, one of the dailies, World Bank, we have categorical, in a report, they said institutional corruption in Nigeria is still endemic. Institutional. And we have been speaking about different instances and all of these things. So, if a body like the World Bank has come out to say institutional corruption is still endemic, is still with us, is still, brazenly done in Nigeria. Some might choose to say, scratch it. We don't believe them. They can choose to do whatever they want. Should we just wish it away? And you have talked about things that we can do categorically. The same question we asked Ladeji. When the system is not really looking like what it encouraging. It's encouraging the youth to unite against corruption so that we can move to a future that has integrity. People in power, irrespective of political parties, will come out and give fine speeches. Governors will speak, EFCC, ICPC, anti-corruption agencies, leaders at all levels. Don't be corrupt, be hardworking. But when push comes to shove, we know what happens. World Bank is saying institutional corruption is here with us in Nigeria. Are they just reinforcing what we already know? And how, in practical terms, can the young people unite? Talking about the unity, unite, to chart this course so that that future, that leaders of tomorrow that they are calling us, we will really be leaders in deed and not just in just textbooks.
Thank you, Femi. First, I'd like to say that charity indeed begins at home. The World Bank is entitled to its opinion as an international organization. My understanding is the World Bank is based in Washington, D.C. in the United States. There are research that have shown that the US itself is corrupt systemically. So I really would not want to address what the World Bank says. People sit somewhere in the comfort of their zones and put together supposedly expatriates to pass very denigrating comments about Nigeria, which I take very strong exception to. We have seen reports of, even here in the US where I live, we've seen reports where government officials have been tried and sent to jail for corruption. So corruption alone is not only attributed to Nigeria. We have many countries that are fantastically corrupt, more than the Nigerian state, in which the World Bank has reference to as saying corruption is institutionalized in Nigeria. A few years ago, I did wrote a paper, which is on Medium, on the level of corruption that was done at the University of Maryland by the former mayor, where this mayor gave out contracts to his biological son. So when the World Bank make comments like that, I think they need to look inward at themselves first and see whether or not the systems in which they are also speaking from is not corrupt. Having said that, I recall a few years ago in 2016, if I'm correct, the former Prime Minister of London, David Cameron, did say that the evil of corruption reaches into every corner. So I listened carefully to what my brother in the studio said, Ladeji. I absolutely agree with all of his comments and I adopt all of them. But the reality is, we cannot say that corruption is a one-stop fight. It is a continuous process. And as you and I know, the Nigerian system is deliberately, mark the adjective, deliberately rigged against every young person because they know how to manipulate the system and make it look as if every young person in Nigeria is not doing anything. And what can we do as young persons?
Yeah, exactly.
I cannot overemphasize the place of education. You cannot change a system if you're not educated or you don't know what you're changing. So I challenge and encourage every young person, seek that education. It is not until when you know something that you can speak about it. How many young persons knows about the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? You're driving on the road. Let's say, I don't encourage driving without seatbelt, but you're driving without seatbelt and you're pulled over by the by officers of the Federal Safety Corps. If you look at the provisions of the Federal Safety Act, there is a particular fine assigned for driving without your safety belt or your seat belt. And because of illiteracy, because we don't know, a road safety officer can just tell you, okay, you have to pay 100,000 or else I will take you to the station and impound your vehicle. Whereas in the real context, the fine for that offense is relatively less than 20,000. But because people are not educated, people are, I would use this word in a very conservative way, because people are illiterate. They don't take out the time to read these laws and educate themselves. So the only way in which we can address the issue of corruption in Nigeria is to continue to advocate for continuous education. Let there be public sensitization. Let people go for town hall meetings. Engage your House of Assembly member. Engage your councillor. Engage your local government chairman. Engage your governor. Let's not just continue to cast aspersion on the federal government. How many persons are asking the House of Rep members, what are you doing? So we make so much noise in Nigeria about anti-corruption, but the things that are closer to our nose, we as young people, we need to stand in the gap. Budget IT has made multiple tools available on how you can track the finances of your government. You can track how much is budgeted for XYZ local government. How many young persons are using this tool? So my comment would be for every young person, for you to change what is supposedly, shortchanging you, you need to spend time, lower your head, be educated. Until you are educated, you cannot fight against corruption. And I encourage every young person again, I can't overemphasize it. Go to school, seek quality education, and live decently with a thought of integrity and living as a country that will work for you and our kids to born.
Let
Thank
me
you.
take this as your part in short. We have anti-corruption agencies, the NFIU, Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, the Nigerian Police, the EFCC, the ICPC, and some of them, I understand, especially the EFCC, I think at the ICPC, they have advocacies in secondary schools and universities, talking about catch them young, making the people to see the value of hard work and, the drive against corruption in, places of education. But will you say the agencies themselves, they have the trust of people, that the people believe in them to really fight against this corruption? Ladeji mentioned something that went viral last week. EFCC was celebrating a forfeiture and telling everybody, pat us at the back. Forfeiture of 753, sets of duplexes somewhere in Abuja, a property, set of properties that sat on more than 150,000 square meters. And the EFCC said the person involved is a former government person, and that was all. And the people were saying, if you are going to really go all about these things, why don't you name and shame? And they were not categorical, although people have been pointing fingers. Do you trust the agencies, from the EFCC to the ICPC and all other agencies, enough that this anti-corruption fight will on the right course, irrespective of any government that will be in power?
Thank you, Femi. To be very direct with you, I don't believe in throwing away the baby and the baby water together. Are these organizations or are these agencies above board? No, there are a few officers among them who are badly behaved, but in the entirety of it, we do have some agencies of government that are very upright, that are doing things, that are very credible. And yes, there are shortcomings even with the EFCC, just like the situation in which you referenced. But that doesn't mean that we should throw away the entire organization. Even across the police or every other MDAs or agencies you can call, there are good ones. But in the meantime, like I said, we can't overemphasize it. We still need to continue to speak up and engage with those people. We can't say because we have a few bad eggs and then condemn the entire system. I know a couple of organizations in Osun, in Nigeria, particularly the ODC, Step Up Nigeria, Code, Budgets, many fantastic organizations that are consistently engaging young people on the needs to fight anti-corruption. And we need to continue to speak up, because if we don't, the system will condemn you and I. And I encourage everyone, according to Madam Obi Ezekwesili, she said, anyone who wants to tackle corruption must be willing to go all the way. There are no shortcuts. So I encourage all young people, there are no shortcuts to success. We must put in our eggs and work tirelessly to ensure that we kill corruption before corruption kills us as a country and as young people.
Thank you, Jacob. I'll take your part in short. We'll take your part in short. Ladeji, the same question. Do you trust all the anti-corruption agencies of the government enough? Yes, some of the way they go around their jobs might be challenging. It is challenging and it's frustrating as well. But the young people, especially, going back to our topic of the day, uniting the youths, uniting with the youth against corruption and having, a future that has integrity. The thing is that trust deficit between the young people, for example, and the FCC. And you are telling the youth to join you. But whenever you go on your anti-corruption fight or, some of these exercises, the way you carry it out is not because the youth or there are not corrupt youth. No. But the modus operandi is so funny, it's so brutal that the young people you are trying to say, let's fight this thing together, don't trust you. How do you think the AFCC, the ICPC, the Nigerian police should carry out their business so that irrespective of the bad eggs that might misbehave around them, the Nigerian youth should support them?
Well, it will
Because
start
it's important.
It will start from the foundation recruitment system. How do we recruit these people? Not until we stop, a politician as someone, shortlist him into the police, shortlist him into the EFCC, shortlist him into the ICPC. Not until we stop that, then we will not be getting, because it is garbage in, garbage out. If you are not putting the good guys there, then you won't expect to have, a good product at the end of the day. And for the people in the system already, I was on this project by Connected Development, sponsored by MacArthur Foundation this year, Project Trust. It speaks about the trust deficit between people and people in power. We need to do better in terms of trusting ourselves. And finally, because I saw Jacob mention it a couple of times, education.
All right.
Very, very important. Education, again, is not a scam for all you right there. Out there. It is very important that you get an education for yourself so that you will not be calling 605 billion, 6 billion. Thank you.
All right, you said it's no more a scam. It has never been a scam.
It is. No, I said education is not
all
a
right.
scam.
Ladeji Alabi is a public affairs analyst and a young person as well. Thank you for your time and your take. And of course, Jacob Sule is a lawyer and he's a youth advocate as well. Somebody very huge and big on education. Of course, you could see that in his submission. Thank you, Jacob, for your time.
Thank you very much, Femi, for having me.
All right, thank you very much. And Femi Joy is my name. Uzoms, we should go.
Oh, yeah. As much as I'd love to stay, but we have to go. And I'm very sure you had a lot of fun and you learned a lot from our guests today. So thank you for having us. We'll be back tomorrow. I remain Uzoms Okechukwu.
All right, God bless Nigeria. We'll make a return tomorrow, God willing.